What's good, yeah? So the March update content preview is out, and I had two options. Option number one, just read through it like everyone else, or option number two, get off my ass and give you as much information possible for every facet of this update, and that is exactly what I chose. So get ready, we're going to go over everything right here more in depth, or as in depth as possible, and yeah, enjoy. Alright, yeah, so first on our list we have the Arbiter of Frost, the new Immortal Codex boss coming on the 8th of March. Arbiter of Frost, birthed from the icy silence of the deep, the king of ice elementals came into being. After gaining vast knowledge, this powerful being experienced profound solitude and sought to create a world of his own kind. Now that Frost Cataclysm is about to come. Alright, there we then obviously have the artworks for his skills. We can't actually tap on them. And let me give you as much information to this Codex boss as possible. So, this is the layout of the Codex boss. It kind of reminds you of the Zealous or potentially even the Praetor's layout. So, rather standard layout where you can place your fighters pretty much all the way here. So, we have a total of 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3, so a total of 7 fighter tiles, 6 range tiles, and then again already something that comes to mind is just placing a Constance right over here. But enough of that, let's have a look at what information else we have. Alright, so let me actually move myself over here. Whoopsies, come on, there we go. Alright, the meta class. The meta class on Forerunners when this boss released were fighters. The mechanic is a debuff shield. What is a debuff shield? You see this blue shield over there? This blue shield ranges between 4 and 5. And your mission is to use debuffs or inflict debuffs. If the boss has enough debuffs, the shield is obviously going to tick down. And you need that shield at 0 to be able to deal your damage. And then furthermore, we have an auto healing mechanic. So you don't need to bring a healer and then you can just inflict debuffs. So let's have a look at the debuffs right here. Oh yeah, furthermore, we all know we got Arrogance and Lust as fighters, which obviously isn't a coincidence. Let me tell you, Lust and Arrogance are both going to be prime choices for this fight. But let's have a look at the debuffs. So, the leftmost debuff is basically either a Vladorf, Lugaru, Salazar. Salazar is actually going to find a place to play. Obviously, the vulnerability, for example, could be a Valeria, but vulnerability isn't as important because it's mainly about applying 4 debuffs. Then Poison. Poison obviously comes from whoever you choose, be it Liam, Cuke, or even Esmeril if she releases it by the time, though I doubt it. So mainly we're actually going to potentially rely on Cuke for an Immortal Codex. Isn't that surprising? Then Death Down is obviously going to be Torador's territory. And then lastly we have Burn. Burn is either Zillitu, Arrogance, even Lust, whoever you have that can apply Burn is obviously going to be of importance here. And obviously whenever that boss really rolls around, we're going to make a deeper dive. What the hell, now I'm still sounding like fastidious. We're going to have a closer look and try to figure out who has the highest debuff uptimes, what kind of debuffs can be used. But just keep in mind, meta class fighters, mechanic is a debuff shield, and furthermore there's an auto healing on that stage. That is all I can tell you about this boss for the moment, and apparently the boss was not overtuned like for example the Zealous boss, so seemed quite fair. Let's get into the next topic. Alright, on to the next point, and the thing that arrives the soonest out of everything, which is going to be new Void Rift mounts, and that's going to be in 6 days, on the 26th of February, but again probably close to reset, so you can kind of calculate with the 27th, we're going to get mounts. But we're not going to get all the mounts, we're just going to get the mount right in the top there. You can see this kind of abyssal looking horse. The name of this horse is going to be Nemesis, and the way that you get this horse is by playing either hard or nightmare difficulty, and then you have the chance to drop shards as a reward, and if you have enough shards you can fuse together a mount, and then you can ride around on a flaming demon abyssal horse instead of your normal standard horse. And honestly that's about it. And furthermore, in the future we're going to get a couple more mounts, maybe even for other content that isn't just Void Rift, because if they're already adding it in, we might as well get something else where we can ride around. But as you can see, we have like a Wyvern, a Griffin, I don't know, it kind of looks like some dead-ish zombie horrors. But yeah, that's about as much as I can tell you. And yeah, let's see how long it actually takes us to get that horse, because I don't even know how long it takes to get 30 shards. We are about to find out whenever we do get the update. Next one. So we're at the second point, which is going to be auto fights. And for auto fights, I obviously hopped onto the test server so I can show you some live gameplay. So here we go. We're just going to activate 500 fights in background. So in comparison to what happened before, they stepped up the fight, the fight capacity from 50 to 500. So now you can always just leave it going through the night. And something you might be wondering is, how do I see if my auto fails? That is something we're going to see in quite a couple of seconds, if this game wants to. So basically it just runs the fight, you just don't see it. But it's not like it's just programming it, it is really just running the fight. And for example, then only failing if it fails. As you can see, it ended due to failure, and you're also going to get a notice at the top that just says background fight ended. So what I did here was just a very simple ungearing Boreas. So let's just give the man some gear back. There we go. And then we can go straight back into gear rate 2. 500 fights, go in. So honestly, now what can you do while in auto fight? While this auto fight is going, let's have a look at what you can do. Can you play arena? The answer is no, because it's actively you doing something. Can you play tide? No, because it's actively you doing something. Can you play void drift? No, because you're actively doing something. Can you play any raids? The answer is no. No, you can't. Can you play campaign? No. Can you check out campaign? Yes. So, can you set your Guild War defenses? Yes. Can you just set your Guild Boss team? Yes. Can you actually fight the Guild Boss? No. So the main thing you can do is just go over quests. For example, you could technically check out your quests, leave the auto fights running, and then for example, go through your heroes and re-gear. The only heroes you cannot re-gear are going to be heroes that are involved in the auto fight. The rest you can swap around gear, promote, upgrade, honestly whatever comes to your mind. But you gotta keep in mind, it is not possible for you to actually play any fights. So one thing that I found really useful is to just put on a bunch of auto fights. For example, as you can see, we're going to get the rewards, and then while I have the auto fights on, actually take my time and sort out gear. Right? Normally you either need to sort gear and then do nothing at all, or just do your auto fights and then you can't do stuff anyway. But now you can just let your auto fights go and then sort your gear. So the gear from auto fights is going to instantly get into your inventory. So let's see if we can find the necklace. Here we are. Here we have the necklace we found from the auto fights. And also we obviously have the option to just insta sell while in this screen. So then you can also instantly delete everything that's new. So yeah, that's how you can make use of auto fight. 500 is the limit. It will give you a message when it fails. And honestly, that's all there is to say about the auto fights. To be fair, they should actually just give us more to do. Like, at least let us play, for example, Void Drift while gear rates are running. Maybe just lock the units that are in the fight and let us play with the other ones. Like, that would be something really, really great. That would be something really great. Might as well lock it. And then we can set this one over here. So on to the next point. Alright, here we are for the next point, which is going to be friendly face-off. Friendly face-off is expected to arrive at the 12th of March. Same with auto fights, because I forgot to mention that. But let's have a look. Let's check out friendly auto fights. So whenever you actually go into that friendly face-off menu, you can disable it so that you don't want to actually friendly face-off. But here you can just go in, and then, because I only have one friend, challenge all the arena teams of that person. So we could, for example, attack this arena team, or you could even play GVG against your friends. For example, you could challenge someone and you both try to break the sentry keep as fast as possible. So this could actually make for some good content or for some fun interactions in general. So I'll see if I can make something out of this. Then right here, obviously, let's just go into the arena, see how it works. We can just bring whoever we want. Let's just bring, I don't know, those units. Obviously, auto fights are again stopping us from doing it. But yeah, let's just click on end now. And here we go. So yeah, it's just a pretty simple get loaded in and then play against the setup that your enemy, right, that the one you're facing obviously set up. Yeah, I'm just gonna place like 1 or 2 units and then just keep going, I guess. So yeah, as you can see, when you place Boreas, you win the first round. You place Boreas, you win all other rounds. Quit battle. Enough of this. This is the way it goes. So honestly, I'm quite hyped for this feature. There's a couple things you can do. And I'm a bit saddened though that it's going to be the 12th of March when we get this feature. But yeah, next one. Alright, the next point is the fact that basic and faction trials are getting an update. And that update reduces the times you need to fight it per day from 3 times all the way down to 1 time. So now you might be wondering, oh, but what happens if I want to progress? Do I need to wait 3 times as long as everyone else? No, the answer is you can always just clear a fight. So clearing a stage doesn't actually take an entry. So technically, you could go from stage 1 to stage 8 in basic trials, or from stage 1 to stage 12 in faction trials in a single day. And honestly, I think it's just a very nice quality of life upgrade, giving us more time to focus on other stuff, or at least on a busy day, allow us to finish our Watch of Realms dailies without missing on Pantheon progress resources. So that's about it, and let's get into the next point. Alright, yeah, the next one is the Krodor Fusion. Now you might be wondering, who the heck is Gogran? It all starts with Gogran. Gogran is a 3-star fighter, and he is the base to get yourself Krodor. So what do I mean with his base? You can kind of imagine it as them evolving. So Gogran evolves into Draga, and Draga evolves into then finally Krodor. And alright, now you might be confused what I mean with evolutions. I got you. Here we go. Through events and Oracle's trials, you're now going to get copies of Gogran. So it's kind of the same thing we normally have with shard fusions, where we just through events and Oracle's trial get shards, use those shards, fuse the hero. Here we're going to get copies of Gogran. And what are we going to do with those copies of Gogran? We're going to take 4 copies of Gogran to turn into 1 copy of Draga, and then if we accumulate 4 copies of Draga, we can fuse them into a single copy of Krodor. And that is the way how the new or old system of fusions is going to work, but I think we're going to move away from that later down the line. So this fusion, as well as Selene and Karosa, are probably going to be the only ones that are going to be made that way, and I think we're going to stick with the shard fusions, but that's just my opinion. Enough of that, let's actually take a look at Krodor's kit. Alright, y'all, it's Krodor time, and before we get into his kit, let me mention his profile picture. For the fact that he's supposed to be like that big bad orc dude or troll dude, man, looks kinda wholesome. But enough of that, let's get straight into the kit. So, I haven't looked at it, but I kinda know how good he's supposed to be, but here we go. Talent, damage scales off of defense, red flag, big red flag, wee 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 wee. Why am I making such panic? The answer is, out of all the characters that I've had to look at, even unreleased ones, that scale off of defense, besides Trusk, I haven't yet tested Trusk, but out of all those characters, the only one that is actually viable, or good, in a sense, is going to be Garn. And Garn is freaking rare, but every time you see damage scales off of defense, you kinda end up with a character that's supposed to be a damage dealer, but ends up doing mediocre damage. So, for example, Azor. Or they kind of sacrifice tankiness for damage, but then they're like a hybrid and can't do one thing good while doing the other thing. So, it's complicated. But let's not get too overwhelmed by damage scales of defense. What else do we have? Increases defense by 2% for 20 seconds each time taking damage, capping at 20%. So if he takes 10 instances of damage within a 20-second window, you're going to get a 20% defense increase, which honestly is quite nice. Increased defense while scaling his damage off of defense. Sure, we take it. Basic attack, pretty basic physical attack, 120% damage. Braveheart, now that's a text. Once HP drops below 30%, immediately enters a state of anger. Okay, bellows at up to 10 enemies ahead and inflicts attack reduction. So reducing the attack of the enemies by 20%, kind of like, I believe, Volker. The next 7 basic attacks change into striking at most 10 enemies ahead, dealing 240% AoE damage and inflicting stun. The ultimate is not available during this stage. This effect can only be triggered 1 time per deployment. Alright, so this dude doesn't have an invulnerability state, but an anger state. And in that one, he basically turns into an AoE monster for 7 basic attacks, which all stun. Which already sounds quite awesome. Let's have a look at the rest of the kit. Unity Strength. Based on the number of adjacent allies, increases physical damage reduction and damage dealt. The effect reaches a maximum of 24% when there are 3 allies in range. So 8% increased physical damage reduction and damage dealt for allies in range. Honestly, that is quite nice. That sounds quite nice. And last but not least, Iron Defense increases block by 2 and defense by 100%. This effect lasts 20 seconds. This sounds pretty incredible. So now that we've had a look at his kit, let's have a look at his stats. What are we dealing with? 29k HP, so very, very high HP threshold. At least as far as I can tell, this should be pretty high HP in comparison to other defenders. What else do we have? Defense of 3800. Which is on the rather low-ish side. Regular should be at 4000 as an example. And then Magic Res, which is standard, pretty low. Alright, so straight off the bat, what I would build on him is probably at least 1 or 2 HP percent pieces, because he's gonna get enough defense from his talent and from his ultimate anyway. Now the question is, how would you even build him on damage? Let's actually have a look how he would look in a full damage set. So what we're going to do is we're going to take my Jorge Special set, which I just made for him, and let's just finish it off. Where's that one piece? There we go. Alright, this would be DPS Krodor, clocking in at around 56k HP, as well as a total of 13,600 defense. Interesting. So how viable is that dude? I don't know. Do you want to see a testing video? Let me know and tell me about it in the comments, and also when you want it released. Do you want it released as soon as possible or closer to the fusion? I'm very interested in what you think about that. But yeah, that is Krodor. And before we end Krodor, let's just have a look what people say about him. And then obviously we'll make our own opinions by testing him extensively. But in Void Rift, apparently he's pretty good. In Guild War, people like him. In Faction Trials, so the Northern Faction Trial, he seems to do his job. But then his performances in Gear Raid 2 Tide. How can you perform bad in Tide? AMR, Immortal Codex, Arena, XP Raid, Gold Raid, Gear Raid, Guild Boss, Gear Raid 3, Arena, AoE. He seems to be pretty bad. But that doesn't have to be the truth. We are going to find it out ourselves, obviously. So, yeah, that is Krodor. And now that we've already talked about Krodor, I think this concludes this update. And I hope you've learned something. I hope you've built some hype. I am rather hyped for Chunky Boy over here, as well as obviously the new Immortal Codex. And we see each other in the next video.